For the record, the official cash rate will remain at 1.75% for some time to come, and the direction of our next move is equally balanced up or down. Of course, only time and events will tell the direction and timing of that. Economic growth and employment in New Zealand remain robust, near their sustainable levels. However, consumer price inflation remains below the 2% midpoint of our target. And this is due in part to low import prices, the recent reduction in the food price inflation, and of course the subdued wage pressure that remains in the country to date. The recent growth in demand has been delivered by an unprecedented increase in employment. The number of willing workers continues to rise, and this is especially with female and older workers wanting to participate. Likewise, net immigration has added to the supply of labour and also the demand for goods, services and accommodation in New Zealand. Looking ahead, global economic growth is forecast to continue supporting demand for New Zealand's products and services. Global inflation pressures are also expected to rise. They are rising, but we anticipate they will be contained. Central banks are doing their job elsewhere. At home, ongoing spending and investment by both households and government is expected to support economic growth and employment demand. Business investment should also increase, given the rising capacity pressures. These emerging capacity constraints are projected to see New Zealand's consumer price inflation gradually rise to the 2% midpoint of our target range. However, to best ensure this outcome, we expect to keep the OCR at this expansionary level for a considerable period of time. This is the best contribution we believe we can make at this point to maximising sustainable employment and maintaining low and stable inflation. Me taki ma'ata, and I am open to questions. There is an argument, likewise there is an argument to be raising rates. You know, this is the challenge, the balancing act that we've been having to do. So that argument was very well articulated and was part of the balancing act that we're doing today. And this is why we're sitting here saying, look, on balance, we expect to be where we are for a while, the next direction. Definitely, you know, we have to take both our contribution to maximising sustainable employment as well as aiming for the midpoint of this inflation target with equal concern. And I hope the document highlights that. The challenge is that, you know, the inflation target is a very well set single point that we can all observe. The maximum sustainable employment concept is not, and this is where we have to put a lot of judgment and balance around what we're doing. We've gone to considerable effort to highlight the many different measures of ways of getting a handle on what maximum sustainable employment is. We don't influence that. We just try to make sure that actual employment is somewhere near that level as best we can.
You said that you've arrived at a sweet spot thanks to your predecessors, but are there things that you want to change in the direction you're going, or things that you're going to tinker with?
Absolutely. Otherwise, where's the challenges? You know, for me as a CEO of a very prestigious institution, some of the changes we've made very clear. We want to make sure that we are communicating very clearly out to a wider audience rather than just the half dozen retail bank economists. And so that's been some of the effort we're making. The other change, of course, is I've arrived at the time of a new PTA. And so John and his economics team have got a real challenge around understanding what is this maximum sustainable employment? How can we best contribute to it? And we've certainly gone out to New Zealand's smartest economists, and we'll be talking a lot with the labour market folk. Another big transition for us is going into a monetary policy committee decision-making structure under the recently agreed legislation. So that'll be going through Parliament, and you know that's about trying to make sure we go through a smooth transition into that committee structure, and that we remain as coherent and I believe as successful as the bank has been over now a few decades of maintaining low inflation.